And I think we are live. Hello everybody, welcome to the monthly gaming rules video log with me, Paul Grogan. Chat is working on YouTube, Facebook chat isn't working again. Just need to click a button and then I'll be with you. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. I assume everything's working fine. And the Facebook chat is working fine as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hello. I can see the comments there on the screen. If you are watching this live on Facebook, please pop a message into the chat as well. What's going to happen today is something slightly different. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the questions that I've been asked in advance. So if you do have any questions for me right now, live, please don't put them in the chat right now. Feel free to just use the chat to talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to cover all of the questions that I've been asked in advance first, and then I'll go to the chat to ask for the questions there. Then at some point later on, Mr. Tony Boydell is going to join us. I don't know when, possibly around 5:30, maybe 5:45, something like that. I basically need to get the Skype call working and we'll be doing that live on air. So at some point in the show, when you're bored of listening to me and I need a rest, we're going to get Tony on and then we can ask Tony a few questions about what he's up to. Right. I've just realised I don't have my glass of water here and Vicky's gone out shopping. So yes, hello everybody. Thank you very much for joining in, and the first thing I'm going to do is go over to the BGG Guild. Now, I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it again. I have a guild on Board Game Geek. It is guild number 2258. If you are not a member of the guild, please join up. Please join up to the guild. Guild number 2258. And also you need to subscribe. So as well as joining, you need to subscribe, and then you'll get notifications of the things that I post in the guild. I don't post that many things, but if you don't turn on notifications, you basically won't see anything. So yeah, go on there and join in on there. One of the things that I started doing last month is I've started a thread of what games have you played this month? And that thread will basically stay open for the whole month. And you can go in there, put the games you've played, talk about them, tell people what you thought about them, etc, etc. I might change that to weekly, but for the moment we'll keep it monthly. If it gets too busy, well, it's not a problem, is it? Anyway, right, let's crack on. So the first 8 questions are from Adam. So thank you, Adam. Adam has added 8 comments into the BGG thread, so I'm going to go through them one by one. And I haven't prepared for any of these because I've been writing rule books this afternoon. So first question is, he's curious to know what happened to the theme music. And if anybody was watching from the start, you'll know that I've got a new animated intro. And it doesn't have theme music at the moment. And there's 2 reasons for that. The first one is I have been considering changing it for about 2 years. So when I did the new animated intro, I decided not to put the music in there. And then I thought, maybe I'll do some different music. Anyway, I haven't got around to changing it. And a lot of people have contacted me and said, keep the original music. I guess they like it or they're used to it. But also the other reason is the animated intro, the way that it fades into the next scene. I kind of want, if you look at any of my edited videos, the music fades out as it comes into the next scene. Well, I can't do that with the broadcasting software. When I switch to the next scene, it cuts it short. So basically what I have to do is I just have to redo the title sequence, put the music in, fade it out at the end, and then get ready to switch over. I was going to do that, but obviously this weekend I've been live streaming like a crazy person. So I haven't had a chance to do it, but the music will come back. There's a few other people that have asked me about that as well. Right, next. Second question, do you think that UK Games Expo and GridCon 2 can go ahead? So I can talk about GridCon 2 first, because it's funny you should ask. Adam posted this message this morning onto the BGG Guild. For those people who don't know, GridCon is my own convention that I run twice a year. Twice a year, hopefully. GridCon 2 was planned for the end of June. We had a meeting with the hotel last week, and I've put an update out about GridCon 2 now on the Facebook group, on the Slack group, and on the GridCon 2 website as well. So the current situation is the hotel is closed. Okay, so the hotel closed last week. The hotel is due to reopen. They're not sure when, but they think they're going to reopen around the middle of June. Of course, the whole 12-week lockdown, that's just their best guess. You know, the people who come on TV and say you're going to be locked down for 12 weeks, who knows what's going to happen week by week. So the dates for GridCon 2 is after the 12-week lockdown. Now, we're going to review the situation. We haven't cancelled it yet. We might cancel it. We might postpone it. We might go ahead. We don't know yet. We're going to see what the situation is like in a couple of weeks' time. There's 2 trains of thought on it. If the 12-week lockdown ends around the middle of June or the start of June, and the hotel starts back up again, and the situation is different than it is now, people might be really wanting to go to a convention because everybody's been, locked up for 3 months. So that might be a good reason to have it. But it might be that we do keep it at the end of June, and even if the lockdown closes, people might not want to come to a convention, and we might end up with 50 people. We don't know yet, so watch this space. Right, next message. What do I think about themed game nights? For example, Arkham Horror or any other themed games nights, where you can basically get, candles, atmospheric music, costumes, etc., etc. I don't do that myself. I guess it probably would be quite cool if you were to play like, a role-playing game and everybody turns up wearing costumes, or you do a Star Wars game and everybody's wearing Stormtrooper outfits or something like that. Personally, I'm all about the game itself. Now, I do like a game, for example, with painted miniatures, so maybe it's just not something that I've done very much. If you're in the chat, let me know if you do themed game nights and what themed game nights you do. Do you dress up? Do you put candles on, or whatever you do? Very, very interested in hearing what other people do about it. And maybe I'm missing a trick, but it's also the prep time. My time at the moment is, well, it always has been, but so limited, I don't really have the time to do that sort of thing. But it would be quite cool. Adam's fourth and not final question, he says, if you yourself could be a character, a mini, a player card, a promo item, what would be the top 3 games that you would like to be put into and why? Well, the subject of me and promo items is a little bit of a sore subject for me, because I see other content creators getting themselves put as promo items in games for their Kickstarters or for their Patreons or whatever. And I've been trying to do that. I've actually been trying to do that for about 2.5 years. And it's been promised to me 3 times, 4 times actually. So on 4 occasions, they said, yes, Paul, you can be a promo item in this game. We'll do this and we'll do that. And every single time, nothing actually happened, and then it didn't work out. And that's a little disappointing. So I would be keen to have that. I am still in discussions with various people about it. Some of them are clients of mine. Some of them are for games which I helped develop, write rule books for and do videos for. So it kind of makes sense. But I guess I'm just not that big a name. That's just the reality of it, for them to, do something like that. If I could pick games that I would be into, well, I definitely like something in Gloomhaven or Frosthaven. It might be too late, actually. Maybe I should speak to Isaac, because I've not actually asked him. But yeah, Isaac doesn't really go in for exclusive promos. So that's probably why I've not asked him. But I definitely like to have something in Gloomhaven or Frosthaven or something like that. I am going to be writing a new scenario for Frosthaven, so I'm kind of going to be in it in a way, but not as a character. What other games would I like? I guess anything which is a game I really like. I'm thinking of games like Cloudspire that I'm loving at the moment. Maybe if I was one of the chips in Cloudspire or something like that. I'm not sure. But rather than it be me, I'd like it to be something related to me, like a rule book or something like that. Right, 5th question from Adam. I know it's all about Adam at the moment. And we have, what rarely or never used topic / subject / theme would you like to see for a new game? And what would its mechanisms be? Now, that's a question I should have read before and prepared for. I think this has been asked before on a couple of other live Q&As about topics and themes that I would like to see in games that are rarely used. And it's probably a question that I could probably answer on my BGG guild at a later stage. That reminds me, last live Q&A, there was a question from somebody, was it Chris Taylor? I'm going to write his name down again. And I've just had a memory of this. I wrote his name down on a piece of paper and then completely forgot about it. I was asked a question last time, exactly like this, that I wanted to give a better answer to. And said, I'll come back to you later on. And then I didn't. So, yeah, that's a good question for the BGG guild, not just for me, but for other people as well. What subjects, topics, and themes are rarely used that you'd like to see more of? There's one for me, which is weather control, because I was designing a game with a weather control machine, and Vital Lacerda is also currently designing a game about a weather control machine. So I think that's quite cool. but that's just a one-off topic. You're not going to have that, you know, you're not going to have many games about that. Oh, and going back to your previous question, UK Games Expo. So UK Games Expo has been postponed. It's now scheduled for 21st to 23rd of August. Do I think that will go ahead? I don't know. I really don't know. I know my convention calendar has gone completely out the window. I didn't go to the Czech Republic 2 weeks ago. I didn't go to Portugal last week. I'm not going to Bacon in April. I might be going to Origins in June. Might not. Who knows? The GridCon at the end of June. Then we've got Manacon in July, which I love going to Manacon. I hope to be able to go to that. We will see. And then we've got HandyCon. We've got GenCon. We've got UK Games Expo. Who knows? We don't know at the moment. Right, question 6 from Adam. In the BGG Top 100, are there any games that you think have had their time or are now undeserving of a precious Top 100 spot? That is a good question. That is a good question. I'm going to pull up BGG and I am going to go to, how do you find the Top 100? I'll tell you what, I'll go to Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven, because that's number 1. Board game rank. And if I click on that, I should get no items found. Brilliant. I think BGG might have crashed. Or maybe not. Right, so let's click on that. I mean, top 100. I'm not going to go through all 100 games now, but I am just going to browse through and I'm going to quickly pull up any ones which I don't feel should be in the top 100. And I'm going, because a lot of these I don't agree with being as high as they are. I don't think Terraforming Mars should be that high, for example. But looking down, I mean, Spirit Island at 13, that's fantastic. I don't think Seven Wonders Duel should be as high as it is. Should it be top 100? I think Seven Wonders Duel is all right. I don't think it's incredible. Maybe I've missed out on that. Seventh Continent, I'm not really a big fan of Seventh Continent. Yeah, after all the hype. There's a game called Mage Knight. I think that's definitely had its day. That shouldn't be in there. Joking. Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, I think, is an absolutely awful game and doesn't deserve to be on any list anywhere. Yeah, I mean, Power Grid's still in there. That's good. Megs and Minions, I've still not played. Ian, I've still got your copy of Megs and Minions. All these games that I'm going through here are good. Everdell I've not played. I'm surprised Everdell's at 51. Is it that good? Maybe I'm missing something. Five Tribes I really didn't like, but I respect that people do like it. It's good to see El Grande in there. It's good to see Mombasa in there. Crokinole is in there. See, I don't know. I mean, I played it once and yeah, it's all right. It's a bit of fun. I don't think it's a top 100 game, to be fair. Patchwork. Again, Patchwork's another game that gets a lot of people loving it, but I don't really see it. It's all right. Russian Railroads, Too Many Bones. Tigris and Euphrates, I've gone off that game a lot because I think the luck factor of drawing the red tiles is too high, but I respect the game. So that's probably still deserving of top 100 just about. What else have we got? Oh, it's good to see Marvel Champions in there. Yokohama. Dead of Winter is another game that I didn't get on with, but again, I respect that, and I see that a lot of people do like that kind of game. And Star Realms, I think, is absolutely awful, and I know I'm in the minority on that one. So, yeah, no, looking through that list, apart from the ones which I personally don't like, which I know a lot of other people do, do they all deserve to be? What I'd need to do is I'd need to look at the next 100 to see which ones I think are deserving more. Right, lucky number 7 from Adam. If you could pick a game that you enjoy or want to enjoy to be redesigned with the same theme but a different mechanism. Now, I can answer this question easily because this is a question that I have asked in previous Q&As, and I'm going to give the same answer now. Dresden Files is a fantastic set of books. I love the Dresden Files. The audio books are brilliant as well. And I was a bit disappointed by the game. I wanted a game with some meaty mechanisms that was really interesting and clever, on the same lines as the Arkham Horror card game. And the actual card game, the Dresden Files cooperative card game, was like a 15-20 minute, fairly simple puzzle, put blue counters on blue cards, and that was about it. Now, it's all right for what it is, but I wanted something deeper, more involved, and a lot going on. That was like a 2 to 3 hour fully cooperative game with lots of stuff going on. So that's what I'd like. What mechanisms would I give it? I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be worker placement or anything like that. It would probably be similar to the Arkham Horror card game style, but fixing the problem that I do have with Arkham Horror, that your equipment is basically cards in your deck and you might not get your gun or your magnifying glass till the end, which makes no thematic sense whatsoever, even though I love Arkham Horror. Right, okay. For those people who are just joining the chat, I'm not answering questions at the moment from the chat. I'm just going through all the questions I've been asked in advance. So keep your questions there for now. I will get to them in a minute. Right, number 8 for Madam is not really a gaming question. In this COVID crazy world, what items from the shops are you struggling to get now or miss having? So like most shops, there are things that we are struggling to get, like eggs. We went to buy eggs, couldn't find any eggs. Toilet roll were okay for about another 2 weeks, but every time we've been to the shops, no toilet rolls, so we're not sure what we're going to do there. Yeah, but otherwise the basic essentials are fine. We just did an order at the weekend from our butchers. So we get all of our meat from the local butchers, and they're basically doing this. We can order it, pay for it, and they'll send somebody out in a van and they'll leave it at the end of the drive, and then we'll go out and collect it. So we're getting our food that way. Vicky's just gone to the shops to get milk. So yeah, as long as we've got some, bare essentials, we should be okay. I think vegetables are all right. It's it's the normal stuff that other people are finding it difficult to get. Are we both okay and surviving in these chaotic times? Yes, we are. Stay safe and take care. You too, Adam. Thank you very much for all your questions. Right, next question in is from Harold. What is my rule when it comes to sleeving cards? Do I sleeve all my games that include cards? Now, my rule on sleeving cards has changed slightly, but not much. Basically, if a game has cards that are shuffled regularly, I'll sleeve them. If it has cards which are not shuffled, then I won't sleeve them. So Tainted Grail, for example, I have shuffled all of my combat and diplomacy cards because they're constantly getting shuffled. Arkham Horror, I've shuffled all the cards for that because they're all getting shuffled. But there are cards in Arkham Horror that I have sleeved which don't get shuffled, and that's because when they're in the storage box, if you have sleeved and unsleeved ones, they look odd, and I like to have them all looking the same. But generally speaking, yeah, if cards get shuffled a lot, I will sleeve them. Yeah, it's one of those things, and I know some people don't like sleeves, but I want to keep the things that I've bought protected, and also the games which I've got which I didn't sleeve cards for are now all tattered and wrecked, and you can easily tell the difference, and that's the problem. Question in from Nilsson. What impact do I think that the current situation will have regards to attendance from companies and visitors to Essen Spiel? And will it affect what games are released there? Now, nobody knows, but I'm not just going to say I've no idea. I actually don't. I actually have some thoughts on it, but we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. First of all, will it have an effect on what games are released there? Some companies, especially smaller companies, have a process where they're developing games, they're testing games, and they're doing all of that. All of that at the moment is being impacted by what's going on. So people are having to look for online alternatives to do playtesting, but it's every step of the process is being affected by it. When we come to actual production, we don't know, because a lot of the games that are going to be released at Essen this year, production wouldn't have started for those yet anyway. Production will probably be starting, where are we now? March. Some of them might be starting April, depends if they're getting it printed in China or not, and the Chinese factories are starting to come back online, but then they're going to have to play catch up. So we don't know. It might impact production, it might not. And if it does impact production, I know a lot of companies, like Czech Games Edition, they print it the week before or 2 weeks before Essen starts. So who knows? As for whether Essen's going to happen or not, we don't know. Will it affect attendance? I think it might. And going back to what I said earlier on about GridCon, even if GridCon 2 happens at the end of June, and I can ask this question in the chat right now, if you do have tickets for GridCon 2, if the quarantine is lifted at the start of June or the middle of June, are you going to come to GridCon 2? Because if you're at all vulnerable, you probably shouldn't, because this coronavirus is not going to go away. The 12 weeks that we're being locked in is to try and slow it down, to stop it spreading across the entire country at once. We got to, flatten the curve or something like that. So the coronavirus is still going to be there. And at the end of June, if we hold GridCon 2, people there might have coronavirus and it might spread. We can't guarantee that it won't. So yeah, I'm interested to see if you had tickets for GridCon 2, if it did go ahead, would you still come? And that's the same question for UK Games Expo. It's the same question for Essen. I would have thought it would affect attendance. How bad? I don't know. The other thing is the human condition. We're all going to be absolutely crazy in about 12 weeks. Well, I'm not, because I hardly leave the house anyway. I'll be fine. But I know a lot of other people are struggling with being, cooped up. B is here. Thanks in advance for your Q&A session. Right. They want to purchase a webcam. Good luck with that. In order to be able to follow the board via Skype and to be able to play with your group during the Corona period. So B joined me yesterday in our live stream of Australia. So I did a game of Australia, and I'm pronouncing it like that because there's a Z in it. And it was with me, Matt, all the way over in Virginia in America, Andrea from Switzerland, and B from Belgium. So we had a completely international game. But I think B wants to start doing similar things with her gaming group. And you can absolutely do it. But one of you will need a fairly decent camera in order to set it up, in order to basically share your screen with the other people. And she's asking what webcam. So the two webcams I have are Logitech C920s. They were the ones which everybody seemed to be using. They were recommended to me, and Amazon had a sale on like a couple of years ago where they were like 50 quid. So I had one, I bought an extra one. I've had a look on Amazon today at the C920s, and the only one I could find was one second hand for £160. If you went into any kind of shop to buy a webcam, and Paul did this 2 weeks ago when they were still open, they just laughed at him because everywhere's sold out of webcams at the moment. Yeah, so there we go. The Logitech webcam, the C920 is the one that's worked for me, but yeah, good look at getting one at the moment. Right, a question in from Scott. Now, for those regular viewers of my live Q&As, you will know that Scott comes in every time and asks a question related to a certain piece of clothing. So the question is, CGE comes to me with a request. Paul, we need your help, Vlaja says in a thick Danish accent. Market research, I'm not going to do a Danish accent. Market research has shown that foot coverings are going to be huge in 6 months' time. Can you help us take one of our existing titles and convert it to be sock themed? After getting over the shock of discovering that Vlaja is actually Danish or is pretending to be, which CGE game would you suggest that they re-theme, or would you suggest a new game? If so, what mechanisms, he says mechanics, I'm going to say mechanisms and settings would you recommend to them? So it's a good question. Which CGE game should be re-themed? I'm going to put that over to the chat. Let me know a CGE game that should be re-themed. I think, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it's something that Vlad just spoke to me about a few years ago as an idea that he was having, which then never got anywhere. So I'm going to say it. I might get in trouble for it. But if they rethemed Space Alert in the Dungeon Lord setting, where the players are actually adventurers and are fighting monsters, I think that would be cool. Because Space Alert, I think, is an underrated game. It is a fantastic game. It is so clever. It's so well designed. It is brilliant as a game, but it doesn't get played very often. And that's because you need to go through a whole load of learning scenarios before you can jump right into the full game, because otherwise it's just too much. And that takes time. So you need the same group. Now, if it was rethemed into a fantasy setting, I think that would be great. As for other games, other CGE games to be rethemed, yeah, not sure. And as for adding socks to them, I don't know. Right, Brendan. Hope Mrs. Rules and the cats are well. Yes, they're all good, apart from Loki's not eating at the moment. He's going through a phase of eating the jelly off the food and not actually eating the food. And that's been going on for 4 days now. So he's eating the dry food, but he's not eating his wet food. A bit worried about him. Vicky's gone to the shops now to buy him some different food. He's just very, very fussy, but he's fine, he's healthy. Well, Brenda says, thank you for the streams this past weekend. Yes, if you haven't seen it, over the weekend I ran a virtual convention and I did 8 live streams. If you're interested in any of them, go and check them out. They're on the channel now. Formula One, what got me into Formula One? So when I left home in 1997, I started a job in Solihull. I moved to a district west of Coventry, and it's when I left home for the first time. Because when I went to university, I actually stayed at home and went into university each day because it was only half an hour from home. So I didn't have that leaving home experience and growing up experience until quite late in life. So when I was 27, I got a job working away, and that was my first class when I left home, and I ended up in a house share with a whole load of other people. And one of the girls who lived in that house watched Formula One. I remember growing up and hearing the names Niki Lauda, Nigel Mansell and everything else, and I never actually understood Formula One. I heard people at work talking about it, and they'd say, oh, who won the Grand Prix? And it was, oh, this person. And I was like, well, is that it? Have they won? I didn't realise it was a season or, points or anything like that. And basically I started watching a few of them with her, and that was it. I got into it. And since then it's been, oh, wow. I just worked it out. It's been 20, so I think it was halfway through 97 or 98 that I started watching it. That's 22 years. Wow, that's a long time to be following a sport. I have been following it avidly. I mean, when we used to have live broadcasts, I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning or, stay up till whatever crazy time. I would watch them live whenever I could. Now we don't have it live anymore. So it's only on the repeats. So I don't bother watching it live. So it's not that I'm not as big as a fan as I was. It's just I have adapted to the not watching it live, and it's now okay because the coverage on Channel 4 is actually really good. Have you been to a Grand Prix? Yes. So as a bit of a treat, in 99, 2000, 2001, when was it? 2000, I think. I went to the Monaco Grand Prix. I got some quite expensive tickets, and we had like an 8th floor view you could see a lot of the track. And I did enjoy it, but that's the only Grand Prix I've been to. And the reason why I don't go to many other Grand Prix, and the reason I'm not that interested in going to Grand Prix is I want to see what's going on. I want the commentary. I want to see everything. I don't just want to see a little bit of the track. Being there for the ambience, the noise, the smell, the atmosphere, not really bothered about that. That doesn't faze me. It's wanting to watch the sport, what's going on and the results and the interviews afterwards and everything else. So yeah, I'm not that fussed about going to an actual other Grand Prix. Vicky did say maybe for my 50th, which is this year, we should maybe go to the Silverstone Grand Prix. But as I say, I think I'd prefer to stay at home and watch it on TV, something like that. Who are my favourite drivers? Do you cheer for a particular team? So when I started watching Formula One, I started watching it, McLaren were doing very well. They had David Coulthard, Mika Hakkinen. I started watching them. Because they were competing against Ferrari, I've never really followed Ferrari myself. Obviously the British drivers, so followed Jenson Button, so that year where he won with Brawn was fantastic. And recently Lewis Hamilton. I am a Lewis Hamilton fan. And yeah, I respect him as a person. And I know a lot of other people have problems with certain things that he says and does, but I respect him as a person. And I used to like BMW when they were BMW, because I used to have a BMW at the time, so I followed them. Juan Pablo Montoya I thought was fantastic because he came into the sport and basically didn't care that there were more well-known drivers, and he did quite well. So yeah, recently it's been Lewis Hamilton who I've been following when he was with McLaren and now with Mercedes. So that's, I mean, I like some other drivers as well, but that's probably the one that I cheer for. Right, we're almost done with the questions from the BGG Guild. Then I'll go to the chat for a bit. So this is a question in from Russ from For Chits for Giggles, which unfortunately can't join us because he's live streaming himself right now. Based on my initial prototype playthrough of the latter, which of Frosthaven or Gloomhaven do you think you'll end up preferring? I think he means of the former. So basically, I have played through one scenario of Frosthaven. That's on the channel right now. Did a 3-player playthrough with Johannes and Sunniva from Board Gaming Ramblings last week. Was it last week? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's all blurring into one at the moment. I think it was last Wednesday. I think I'm going to prefer Frosthaven for a few reasons. Gloomhaven, one of my favourite games of all time, but, and I've spoken to Isaac about this and he knows the problem, it breaks down at high levels. Once you get past level 5, 6, 7, you're just too good. And the game doesn't, unfortunately, scale really well at the high levels. You have to up the difficulty to +1, +2, and even on +2, you can still do it quite easily. He's addressed all of that. He's sorted out the numbers. He knows what tweaks he needs to make. And I think Frosthaven will be better scalable at high levels. Also, I love crafting in games. And the fact that you go out on adventures, the loot is going to scale better. The prosperity thing is going to scale better for different player counts. You get to bring back pieces of wood and cloth and you use them to build buildings and you can then craft items. That sounds quite cool as well. The new character classes are more interesting than the original ones. Not that they were boring, the original ones. It's not that, it's the other stuff. That's why I prefer Frosthaven. Right, that is it from the BGG Guild. So thank you very much to Adam and everybody else for asking questions on there. I am going to now switch over to the live chat and see what's going on. So Chris Incow is here in the Facebook chat saying Bunny Bunny Moose Moose. Yeah, so if I was to retheme Bunny Bunny Moose Moose, what would you retheme it to? I think the theme of that, although it's not my favourite game, yeah, I think the theme of that kind of fits. Adam says he doesn't have tickets, but he'd love to play board games with a real person. You're playing on Tabletop Simulator. Try and do what I've been doing. Because rather than using Tabletop Simulator, I've got the game. So if I had a game set up here, you had the game set up there, we could totally play the game together. It would work for certain games. Obviously, if there's a deck of cards to draw from and there's hidden information, you're going to have to use one of the tools online. René's here, dropped in, say hello. John has got a question. What has been your go-to favourite meal during the COVID pandemic? Oh, well, Vicky's been doing all of the cooking. What's been my favourite meal? Oh, this was about a week and a half ago, so I think it counts. She made these enchiladas and she didn't follow the recipe because we couldn't get something. So she replaced it with like sweet peppers, and then she couldn't get something else, so she added something else instead. And it was amazing. It was really, really good. So yeah, enchiladas. How are we doing for time? It's 5:30. I think Tony has joined in the chat, so that's good. If you're watching, I can see. I'm just going to scroll up a bit. Yeah, Adam's here. Luke is here as well from the Broken Meeple. Only levels 5 to 8. That seems mighty quick for the game to break. I'm not sure. I mean, we're levels 8 and 9 now, and we're definitely playing on +1. So maybe not. Maybe it's just 7, 8, and 9 where it. And as I say, all you do is you just put it on +1 and +2, and it's fine. It's back to then normal difficulty, but you shouldn't have to do that. Normal difficulty should stay normal difficulty. Adam's here from the Herefordshire Board Games. Thank you very much, Adam, for joining in. Streaming live games over a camera feels a lot better than a simulator. Yes, definitely. Thumbs up for enchiladas. Yes, definitely. Oh, Matt Green's here in the chat. Hi, Matt. Thank you very much. Me and Matt go back a long, long way. Back to, what, the late 90s, where I was playing Magic and you used to work for Wizards of the Coast. Matt also designs games now as well. So it's great to see that some of the people that used to play Magic with, 20 odd years ago. Well, Tony Boydell for one of them. And Matt as well. Right, yeah, so if there's any questions in the live chat, what do I feed my eyebrows to keep them so full and healthy? Enchiladas. That's what it is. Yeah, I mean, I have to trim my eyebrows usually weekly because they grow as fast as my hair. I just assumed everybody's do, but maybe not. So I have to trim them regularly. This is the length of my hair at the moment. I'm trying to do stuff with it each day, but over the next few weeks, you are going to see it get even crazier. The Dirty 8 Super just picked up Clinic Deluxe. Thoughts on it if you have played it? Right, I haven't. I also haven't played the original Clinic. I want to. Now, my thoughts on Alban VR games is that they're good, but the rule books are generally bad. And I struggle Games with bad rule books, why don't I play a game with a good rule book? If I'm given 2 games and I've got to learn how to play both of those games, and this one is going to be really hard and require me to read BGG and forums and get questions answered and all of that lot, whereas this one's got a good rule book, I'll go with this one. So his games have a reputation for bad rule books, but Clinic is a game which I've always wanted to try. I was in discussion with Alban a number of months ago about potentially getting involved somehow, and then I'm not quite sure what happened, but Alban disappeared off social media. I have heard he's okay because I was concerned, and it wasn't the conversation with me. But yeah, things have been quiet since then. I've not heard. So it is a game which I would like to play. Paul is such a hippie. Yes. Graham's picked up Clinic Deluxe. Excellent. Right. And yeah, playing online, not using Tabletop Simulator, but using Board Game Arena, which has crashed today, but has had an upgrade. Oh, Loki's coming to join us. What else? Yukata, Brett Spielvelt, Spiel by Web for the Game of Bust that's going on, and then digital apps, through the ages, things like that. We can all play lots of games without actually all being in the same room. So everybody should be doing that as much as they can at the moment. Right, okay, I'm now going to go through the questions that I was asked in advance on the Board Game Trading in Chat UK Facebook group. There's been a couple in here, I think, from Tony as well. So, Tony, I'll probably be calling you in about 5 minutes. And Vicky sent me a message to say that there's a big queue at the shops. So, yeah, she's gone to the shops. Right, questions in advance that we had. Have we had any questions? I'm not sure. It was just people talking about how excited they were that Tony's going to be in the chat. Yeah, that's a question for Tony. That's one for Tony. And that's one for Tony as well. And how's the Jaffa Cake supply? Got a couple of boxes left. Yeah, Jaffa Cake supply is starting to run a bit low. But hopefully they are... I mean, that's the thing. The police in Columpton are stopping people when they're trying to leave town by car, saying, where are you going? If I decided to get in the car and drive somewhere and they stopped me and they said, where are you going? I said, I'm sure I've run out of Jaffa Cakes. Maybe they treat that as an essential thing. Right, I'm going to get Tony in the chat. So Tony, if you've got your Skype on, I will give you a call. I just need to close down the messenger windows, because otherwise you'll get all of the plinky plonks from that. And I'm going to call Tony now and see if this works. Okay, I can hear that working. Hello, Tony. Right, I can hear you. Other people can't hear you yet or see you, so bear with us a minute. I need to switch over to this screen, which I have prepared in advance, and then let's add in streams. Tony Boydell. Put the volume down on that. Right, there he is. Tony is on screen. Let's drag you below there.
When I get any weird feedback, can you hear me all right?
There you go. Hopefully they can hear you, and hopefully...
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I have now enabled your audio to go out on the stream, so hopefully other people can hear you. Let us know in the chat if you can hear and see Tony. How are you doing?
Hello, Tony. I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, you?
I'm doing all right. How is being cooped up for you?
It's all right for me, because I can work from home anyway. Right. So I don't have to go in and out of London. I do miss my pret-a-porter granola yogurt first thing in the morning, though. That was,
right.
Was a particular delight. But I don't get the weird sort of sense of alienation you get in a very crowded city. Right. Despite it being people everywhere, you feel quite isolated in London. That's why I like to escape at the end of the day and come back to the countryside.
Okay. So you're coping okay with it?
Yeah, well, I'm finding time when I'm not on bloody Teams conference calls
right.
to do a bit of work and maybe do a bit of game designing as well.
Yeah. Well, that was the first question we had in the chat, in the Facebook group, is how many games are you going to design during the lockdown?
Well, at the moment, it's one for definite. It's 1.5 if you count my revamp of Rome Sweet Rome. So
Okay.
yeah, 1.5 so far.
So far.
I can't sort of say I've got no more ideas because Macabari, which is the new name for T for 2,
Oh, right.
popped out of the blue about a week ago. So
Yeah. You didn't
yeah,
go with my suggestion then that I proposed on your blog.
yeah, the Martin Wallace and Ashona's Mickey Take copycat thing. Yeah.
Except the thing here is Alibari was your game anyway, so my joke didn't really work. But
Yeah, well, I don't. There's Martin Wallace is a lovely guy, but I kind of want to stay away in case I get cursed.
yeah, good point. Now, is the whole family with you at home?
They are, yeah, which
Now-
has really drastically reduced my masturbation, Tom. I can tell you.
What I was thinking is
We live yet, by the way?
we are live. We are live.
Drastically reduced my game design time.
There you go. We are
Yeah,
live, and it is a family show. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's interesting because I spoke to the boss of CGE last week, and I said, "How are you getting on? How are you coping?" Because he's got kids at home and his wife and everything else. He said, "Yeah."
Philip?
No, Peter.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, Philip's not the boss. He just does the art and stuff.
He
So I
always
spoke.
told me he was the boss.
Yeah, well, of course he would. So I spoke to Peter and I said, how are you getting on with the family being at home and all of this lot? And he said, yeah, it's really good. We're having some nice family time and everything's great. And a few other people that I've spoken to have said, oh, it's terrible. We're all just shouting at each other all the time. So how is your family going? Is it okay?
It's not too bad. Probably the biggest, I think we're quite chilled out because we don't have the news on. I mean,
Right.
we did tune in to watch Mr. Johnson give us his lockdown speech and then switch it off and went back to watching Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We tend to avoid the news because it's
Right.
been so depressing over the last 18 months and it makes me ill. So,
Right.
yeah, that's kind of helped. I'm the one that tends to go out and get the bits and pieces, although
Yep.
one of both my daughters are still working in their various service industries, so they
Oh,
can
right.
get
Okay.
the biggest problem actually is probably keeping Arthur, the youngest, occupied,
Right.
because as a youngster, he's got homework generously donated by the school,
Yeah.
for sake, and he kind of doesn't want to do that because it feels like a holiday, and yet it isn't.
Right.
He still needs to do work, and he's getting a little bit listless because he can't see his mates. We've tried setting up a couple of Skype things, and that seems to have worked a few wonders. But
Yeah.
from his point of view, he's 12. He's got no control over this at all. He can't even volunteer to go and get stuff in town for us because
Right.
he's not.
Okay.
So he kicks around the garden, or he kicks around playing Lego, or he kicks around watching TV, or he kicks around watching playing his Fortnite on
Right.
the Xbox.
But that's
yeah,
not
he's
that's
probably
not
my
enough.
biggest-
He needs more.
Well, you just need him running up and down, doing a
Right.
bit more, just a bit more variety. It's like he comes in and says, "I'm bored," and read a book. Oh, I don't want to read a book. Oh.
Right.
What
Okay.
he's really angry for is more screen time.
Yeah. Right. So
Yeah,
let's talk about.
Otherwise, we're all doing fine. We're doing fine.
Good. Let's talk about Tony Boydell, games that are coming out this year designed by you, forgetting the coronavirus. So what was the plans for this year?
Well, actually, there's only one game of mine coming out this year,
Mhm.
and that's the Racing the Rails thing I'm doing with Gibson Games,
Right.
which is the sort of the party game, sort of mass markety thing based
Yeah.
on the London Underground, and that I'm looking forward to. Although, if there's no tourism this summer, I don't know whether they'll bother releasing it.
Right.
Why launch a game when there's nobody there to kind of pick it up
Yeah.
straight away? I would understand if they delayed it. No, for surprise there, the big thing this year is the March of Progress and the Ming Voyages.
Yeah.
The two tiny box but big games releases from Alan, which is March of Progress, and Alan and David Mortimer with the Ming Voyages.
Yeah.
Both of which have had excellent reviews and run-throughs and all sorts of other feedback. It was a good Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
But I think COVID kind of screwed up people's attention spans. I think a lot of people were too busy worrying about other things like jobs, work, food.
I'm actually planning to do a solo.
We did done quite well. Sorry.
I'm actually planning to do a solo playthrough of Ming Voyages either this week or next week. Not sure when. Yeah.
I saw Alan was on the chat, so he's make sure you let him know in advance, and he'll.
Alan was in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really excited about those little the Pocket Campaign series, because I think it's just such a lovely sort of series, such a lovely concept. Small games big games in small boxes. Clemens does beautiful artwork. David and Alan, as a team, seem to be really, really hitting it off now. Cousins War was a great proving ground for them. I'm looking forward to what else they've got loads of stuff, in the back of their minds about various bits.
So the one that's going to be published by Gibson Games, then, that was going into like normal shops and things?
Yeah, well, it's TFL branded, so it's
right.
Gibson's got a game called Mind the Gap, which is, I think it's one of their biggest selling games, because it's TFL branded and it's a card game, and it just sells in every tube station, shop and London tourist attraction. So I think that's the idea with Racing the Rails. It's just a daft observation game meets dexterity game.
Right.
Plays in about 2 minutes. So.
Okay. Right. I'm just going to go to the chat then, because we've been getting some questions in for you. Let's see if I can get these on screen without having to scroll up. So I'm probably going to get these in a random order. How about a status of the expansion for Guilds of London? This is from Chris Inco.
Ah. Right. Is that Chris, who's the brother of Paul?
That's the one.
God, you can't tell them apart, can you?
That's the thing. That's the thing with twins.
Yeah, well, yeah. One's got one letter more in their name. No, the Guilds of London expansion is out.
Yeah.
It's called Wards of London, and there are 2,000 copies printed. I got given 12 copies at Essen as my designer stash, and I've gotten rid of all my spares of that, and I have no idea. What's happening with the rest of it.
Right, but it should be available then.
It should be, but 2,000 copies doesn't sound like a lot if you think they all went to America first.
Right, true.
I might actually dig deep into my my designer copies, of which I've got 3 left, and put one up for raise a bit of money for or whatever charity, because I think there's a few of those coming up soon.
Right. Yeah, so Chris, that's what Tony's saying. 2,000 copies were sent to America. If you're saying it's out of stock and you can't get it, and you desperately want one, Tony might be putting one of his up for auction. Right, let's just scroll up a bit. Yeah, the problem is with this chat is every time somebody pops a message in, it scrolls back down. So
just put a pause on the abuse for a minute and let Paul get the questions out, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Right. What can you tell us about the Isle of Man expansion for Snowdonia? What's it all about? This is from Daryl. Oh,
well, it'll be out soon. But yeah, I mean, at my blog, I sort of posted some bits and pieces about it a while back now when I was designing it. Basically, it's a double-ended sort of railway. You start in the middle at Douglas. You can either go north or south. You can build ships, which are a bit like trains, but they tend to give you more points than anything, and you can have as many ships as you like. You can build special things like gardens, or there's a station master's bicycle you can build as well if you've got enough steel for that. And the key difference here is that you've got 2 weather systems. You've got weather in the north of the island, you've got weather in the south.
Okay, right.
So one looks at the top of the straw deck of the contract cards for the weather, like normal, and the south deck looks at whatever's on the top of the discard pile for its weather.
Right.
So if cards don't get hoovered up and around, then it'll be the same weather for that part of the island. But I've also included a couple of bits and pieces so you can play the double weather with Snowdonia, the original scenario.
Okay.
Because if a long, long time ago, the game was designed to be in 2 halves. You go halfway, score, and then finish, and then score a second time.
Right.
And that's why the stations in Snowdonia are green at one end and orange at the other.
I didn't know that. Right, okay.
But when we printed it and it all went out there, I just completely forgotten about it. And the colours stayed. Clemens just reproduced in my original source files. So, funny enough, nobody ever asked us about it. So why is that? Now that I've worked it out, you can have weather at the top of the mountain and weather at the bottom of the mountain using the cards that come in the fixed pack.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about, basically.
Okay. Question in on the Facebook group from Ian Turner. Are you self-isolating in the shed or have you moved to your regular abode? There you go.
I'm not. It's bloody cold in my shed. No chance. And the roof fallen in. We had a storm a couple of years back, and it caused all the plasterboard in the ceiling to fall through, and I can't be asked to check. No, it's too cold. Right. I'm in the library room.
There's also a question in from Cisco. If he gets the Snowdonia Douro Valley working, would he have a look? Douro. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Snowdonia Douro.
Snowdonia Douro. Douro Valley.
Douro Valley. Oh, I'll have a look.
Okay.
The odd thing about Snowdonia is I did the Isle of Man expansion because they were doing the fixed, the deluxe.
Yeah.
And I can get away with that because I can pretty much assume that everybody who really wanted everything got the deluxe pack.
Yeah.
And therefore, anybody who wanted to still have everything, i.e. fixed cards and stuff, wouldn't mind getting the Isle of Man scenario at the same time, which is why I kind of did the Isle of Man scenario. The idea was to kind of give something back as a sort of a sorry that we missed out on all these mistakes and stuff. So basically, the guys are just sort of covering their costs, I think, on everything. I think if you bought the Isle of Man pack, you're just paying for the postage, basically. I mean, it's quite an exercise, really. But I'm a bit reluctant to do new scenarios for Snowdonia because people have gone and invested in the deluxe set.
People have now got everything.
Yeah, but don't tell anybody. But I've got about 30 copies in my shed, and I've got to get rid of them first before I can start doing. Yeah. So I know you need one anyway. I think you're on my list.
I do. So what you could, I see what you're saying is that the deluxe edition was right. You can now get everything. If you now produce something else, people will be like, well, wait a minute, I now don't have everything. But what you could do is you could do officially sanctioned, approved print and play versions.
I could do, but I just think that at some point, I mean, I don't mind print and play stuff. I think if people ask me, they occasionally ask me if they could do alternative languages of the rules and stuff, and I'm quite happy for that to go on to BTG. And if people want to publish stuff on BTG, I mean, let me have a look at it first.
Okay.
I mean, if it's too good, I'm not going to want it to go on to BTG because.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right, there's a question in from Philip Dennis. Can't remember your working name for it, but how is Drains of London coming along?
Drains of London, yeah. It's called 1854, which is going to really piss off the 18xx's out there.
Right.
1854, Bazalgette and Snow, which is a tribute to Joseph Bazalgette and somebody Snow, the guy who diagnosed that cholera was being transmitted through the water, the polluted water that people were drinking from. It's coming along all right. The thing is, it's playtesting time, really.
Yeah.
And it's not the kind of game my family want to play. You want to play a game about sluicing poo through London.
Right.
Super excited about that. But hopefully, when things calm down a bit, we'll pick it back up again.
Right. There's a question from me from CompuCube, and this is about the live stream that I did on Friday night. So on Friday night, I did one of my live unboxing, learn how to play the game, and then play the game all on video. Now, I first did one of these sometime last year as a bit of an experiment. I thought, this is a crazy idea. Let's do it and see who's interested in this sort of stuff. The advantage of it is there is zero prep time for me. I literally unbox it there live on camera and learn how to play the game. I don't know anything about it beforehand. I didn't think it'd be something that people would be interested in, but I had a lot of emails, and then I had people coming up to me at Gen Con saying, oh, that video you did, that was really good. You should do more of them. So I got a copy of Nemo's War, and I decided, because I didn't have any time to read the rules or anything like that, and I wanted to give it some coverage, and Normal Games Night was cancelled, that I would do one of those videos. It was a 4.5 hour stream, because it's a long game anyway, and learning from the rule book. It was a pretty good rule book. People were there in the chat helping me. I was fading at the end. I was getting hungry. I was tired. I was really struggling to even just see straight. And basically a couple of things happened and I lost the game. So we went, right, thank you very much for joining me. We lost like one turn from the end. I got defeated and then we packed it away. And then somebody popped a message into the chat, and it might have even been CompuCube themselves, to say, oh, you got a rule wrong. You shouldn't have died. It was like, So on Saturday morning, before starting the whole series of live streams, I very quickly played through that last turn myself. I survived and I got 161 points, which when you look that up in the back of the book, it says defeat. So it's like, okay, so I still lost anyway, but at least I got to the end. Yeah, so that's what happens. My final thoughts on it were I thought it was very good. It was a lot of dice rolling. It was very much a dice fest, but I enjoyed the theme of the game. And if I had a spare 4 hours free, I'd be definitely playing it again as soon as I can, really. I really liked it. Have you played Nemo's War, Tony?
No, it looks beautiful. But,
it does.
It's not, it's, yeah, it's, I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to play all these things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it was a 30-minute game, you probably would be able to fit it in.
It's not the length of time that's the problem. It's just finding some time to sort of commit to a solo game. I'd rather play multiplayer games anyway.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I mean, I'm sure the Ross and Y gamers would be quite happy for me to sit in the corner of the plough in when we're let back in there. Just play the Nemo's War on my own while they get on with stuff they really like, you know. Stuff I keep moaning about all the time.
Speaking of the Ross and Y gamers, that was another question that we
gaming
had
club in the world. Just want to say.
Yeah, that's another question that we had in on the Facebook group beforehand, which I seem to have. Oh, I've closed down the window. That's why. It was something about who's your favourite member of the Ross on Y gaming group, or something like that.
I think it's Smudge. I think it's Becky Bates. Yeah, she's a fantastic games player, and she absolutely puts up with a lot of masculine testosterone-fueled bullshit every single week.
Right.
Ben gets his way through the beers. Jobbers turns up, and from week to week, you don't know whether he's actually enjoying himself or not. Sometimes his face just doesn't change expression through the entire evening. And Becky's put up with us all these years.
Right.
Yeah, she's my favourite.
There you go. So Kabuki says that it wouldn't take me 4 hours if I played again, especially off stream. Yeah, you're right. It wouldn't be 4 hours, although Ricky Royal said his first game was 4 hours, but he plays quite slow. And Scott is saying what was the incorrect rule. So if you go back to the end of the video, basically the reason why I lost is these ships spawned and there was nowhere to put them. And if a ship spawns and there's nowhere to put it, it's an instant loss. And actually I'd forgotten that the North Atlantic was connected to the South Atlantic. Who'd have thought? And there was a place where I could have spawned the ship. So I would have survived that turn. I then rolled the dice. I rolled a double, so I took a lull turn just to basically limp my way to the end, and then got the final card, survived the final card, and as I say, added up the points and it didn't work. Right, any other questions that we have in the chat? So we've talked about the Isle of Man. Tom Fox is saying, has there been any progress on your 18xx game idea? But is that the 1854?
No. That's a deliberate wind-up. I'm going to insist it's called 1854. If it ever
right, okay.
Really wind up the community. Yeah, they'll be tugging their beards out in great tufts.
They will. Yeah, they will.
Right to anger. Well, they're not going to do anything about it, are they? I mean, bloody hell. Toddle over to me. Take them about a week to get across the room, and then they'll wag their finger at me, and then somebody go, "Oi, there's another stock round," and they'll be back. They'll be gone. That'll be fine. In fact, if I could learn to throw my voice and go, "Oi, it's your stock round," that'd be it.
Yeah, they'd be out.
I'm not afraid of them. No.
Are there any other games that start with the numbers 18 that aren't 18xx games, or are they all 18xx games?
I don't know. I want to do one called 1832, which is about teenagers going on holiday. That'd be quite good. That's a bit of a niche UK joke. That's the 1970s, isn't it? 1980s.
I think it was the 1980s. I remember it, and I remember it being around before I was 18, and always wondering what those holidays kind of were. And then I also remember when it folded. So yeah, it was probably 80s, 90s, something like that.
Yeah, I think Age of Steam meets Booze and Memo. I think that's what 1832 would be about. Okay.
Speaking of Age of Steam, I'm thinking of doing an Age of Steam Devon map. I don't know if it would work, but I've been playing quite a lot of Age of Steam recently, and it's like there's so many different Age of Steam maps. I'm like, why don't I do Age of Steam Devon? So
Age of Steam Columpton.
that was my original idea, but then I thought, no, that was a bit silly. So I decided to go with Age of Steam Devon, which was less silly.
That's not silly at all, is it?
No. Maybe I should do Devon and Cornwall, or maybe just Devon.
Oh, hang on. Hey, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? Because you don't get on, do you? You two counties, Devon and Cornwall.
I
no
think,
level up there. Shipping rice pudding across the border with the Devon.
What we could do is, on the map, we'd have a dividing line between Devon and Cornwall, and on either side of the line...
Well, it's called the county boundary.
Yeah, no. But on the map, there'd be a line, and next to the line, next to the county border, there'd be a picture of a cream tea. And on one side, the jam would be on top of the cream, and on the other side, the cream would be on top of the jam.
Oh, that's a nice little mechanism, isn't it? You've got to pick up and deliver, obviously, but you've got to get the right cube on top. You have little red cubes, little white cubes. There we go. And you've got to, depending on how you've stacked them. Yes.
And this is how game design happens.
Age of Cream. Oh no, that's another.
No, that's a different one. Or just cream tea.
Yeah. That was a good movie, that one.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions that we've had in the chat? Have you got any questions for me, Tony, while you're here?
That's a bit awkward. No.
Okay, that's fine. Right. So Tom Fox has said there is a game, 1893, but it's actually Brussels 1893. It's not just called 1893.
Yeah, the board game and the card game. The card game's quite good, actually. I've not played the board game.
I've not played either.
So,
No, not played either of them.
Well, I've been told, because I've only played the card game version, which came out at Spiel last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Bateson's played the board game. I've heard that actually the card game gives you all you need to know in terms of the flavour, and it takes a lot less time than the board game. So if you like sitting in front of a board with wooden cubes and doing all that kind of stuff for an hour and a half, you'll love the board game. Right. But actually, if you want something a bit meaty but not going to take up the entire night, go for the card game version.
Okay. Right, so Tom Fox has come back. He's the guy who said, how's your 18xx game coming on?
Yes.
And he's actually talking about, he says, the one set in Wales. You put a couple of pictures on your blog.
Yeah, that was 18... Yeah, hang on.
18.
Yeah, it's a cube rail game, I think. But I haven't got round to doing anything about it really. It's just on the big pile of things. I might get a second wind this week, but that's because my daughter's cooking vegetarian food. But there you go. There it is.
There you go.
18. That's how you pronounce it.
Unfortunately, you've got the auto blur background on Skype.
Yeah.
And it's blurring the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a cube rail game, and
Right.
if you connect up the major cities with the tourist attractions in Wales, then you can get shipped for lots more money. So, yeah, it's unsophisticated at the moment because 18xx terrifies me.
Right.
Cube rail games have got quite a illustrious ancestry to follow in the wake of. So if I do anything, it'd have to be pretty bloody good, to be honest.
Right.
So it might just stay as a daft hex map.
So you're not an 18xx fan then?
I'm not a fan, and I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? I have played 18xx, and I would like to play 18xx games. The last time was about a year and a half ago in North Wales at the Bastion Convention, 1879. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I guess it depends on the crew that you're playing it with. I mean, if you're playing with people who expect you to know exactly what you're doing at all points in the game and will punish you severely for any mistake, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
But if people want to sit down and give it a go and have a bit of a laugh and enjoy the experience, because I think it is important to play games like that because they have such a lot of reputation and they're also quite intimidating because of the people that evangelize about them. I think people should try them at least once.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been asked the question, will I pursue the Nemo's War expansion packs? So, although I did really enjoy the game, expansions for me are one of those weird things because generally speaking, I'm teaching games to people for the first time so often that even games that I've got with expansions, I very rarely use the expansion. Now, Nemo's War is a solo game, so I need to look into the expansions to see what they hold. But also, I think there's so much replayability in the base game as it is, I don't currently feel the need to suddenly get all the expansions. I don't know, maybe if I play it more, maybe I will.
Can I ask you a question, Paul?
You can.
Just kind of related to that point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great deal made nowadays of games that have variability and replayability.
Yeah.
Variable setup, variable abilities, different powers, all that kind of stuff. How valid do you think that is, given that most games that people play aren't played more than 3 or 4 times? What's the point? What's the point in designing super variability if people are only ever going to sit down and play a game 5 times?
So, and I have thoughts on this because I've played, the original Kaylus, which has a tiny bit of variability in the setup, but then the rest of the game is the same. Puerto Rico, absolutely no variability in the setup whatsoever, and I played it 300 times, online, and it's fantastic. However, I do think games that have a massive variable setup are good because then every game is different. Now, you're right, on average, we'll only play games 3-4 times maybe, especially, somebody in buying position that's got the new games coming in all the time. But then there are other games that I know people have played 10, 20, 30, 40 times, maybe even more, because it's a game they love. And for those people that are really big fans of the game, to have a variable setup, which means every game is different, is great. So if it's not too much work, then games with the extra variability are good. Even if you've got, right, here's 10 buildings, we're going to choose 6 of them, and they're the 6 that are in the game. Great. You've already got variability built in. Do I think a game needs variability in order for it to be replayable? No. See Kaylus, Puerto Rico, and certain other ones. But does variability increase replayability? Yes, I think it does massively. If we take Teotihuacan, I've played Teotihuacan 4 times now, I think, with the suggested basic setup. I would personally probably not want to play it again with that basic setup. I mean, I would if there was new people, because I now sort of know, you go here and get wood, and then the 3 spaces on from that is where I can spend, you can see why that is the basic setup. I have played it once with the variable setup where you just put the 8 boards out randomly, and I went, oh, wow, right. This game is going to be a lot different. I can't now just go that and that. I've actually got to change the way that I approach the game, and I think that's good. So yeah, if adding variability is not hard to do, then definitely do it, in my opinion. That's my thoughts.
It just happens to be, as a designer, I like variability, and I like the idea that you can sit down and deal out something, set up and go, oh, this is something I've not dealt with before. I mean, a really good example of a published game that does that for me is Keyflower.
Yeah.
You can often get an initial spring where there's like 1 tile that gets you any wood, and it's no wood, virtually no wood at all. So we're going to have to think about gold, or we have to think about other ways to get the point. We can't get the wood that we need to do whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can get people playing a game 3 times and seeing that each game has to be approached differently within the same framework, I think that's more likely to keep them interested in the game than just basically saying, well, I know how I did it in the first game and that worked. I'll do it again. Oh, it works in the second game as well. Yeah. Oh, it works in the third game. That's when, the ennui sort of settles in on a game.
Yeah, I quite like the variability. So Scott is saying, Scott in the chat, his most played game he's played 77 times. He's not told us what it is, but 77 times. That's not bad. He's played On Mars 15 times, which is more than me. And I helped develop the game.
It probably took him the same amount of time as it took to play 77 games of the other game.
Probably did. Connect Moore is saying that he agrees with you on variability, but he's been loving Alexander Pfister's legacy and story approaches to Hong Kong, Maracaibo, and Expedition to Newdale. Now, I didn't think the story mode in Blackout was, I thought it was pretty awful. But in Expedition to Newdale and in Maracaibo, I think the addition of story mode in them has been great.
Well, it wouldn't surprise you that I like that mechanic, because I've got that in my attentional shipping prototype. I've got the idea that initially I piled everything into the prototype. So I had all sorts of hazards and all sorts of quests, tales as they called the game, all sorts of equipment.
Yep.
And it was a huge, cumbersome thing. I mean, it was fun, but it was huge and cumbersome. And I thought, hang on a sec, some of these bits of story, if you like, some of these quests that you have to do really happened later in the timeline that the game is set in.
There you go.
So why don't I set it up so that you start in the 1930s, play through the war.
Yep.
Second World War is an interesting environment for a fisherman. Then after the war with the rationing, and then into the 60s where there's new tech and there's satellite technology and all that kind of stuff as well. So it became quite a good way of trimming down the components for any given game by saying,
right,
we're just going to stay with the 1930s in this game, or we're just going to jump straight in into the 1950s and do a sort of colonists approach where you kind of join the game with the right components to kick it off at that point.
Right.
And I think story mode is a very interesting change to sort of layer to add on to board games, because legacy seems a bit too catastrophic for a lot of people. They don't like destroying things they've paid good money for, or at least, you know, if you destroy it, you then can't offload it on the Facebook groups either. You destroy it. So, but something with a story, and I've become more and more enamored of games with the deeper themes, and I've really fallen in love with the story of the fishing industry in that sort of period of time.
Yeah.
So if I can tell that story, sort of almost from the point of view of a family business, you know, you start in the late 20s, early 30s as a grandfather who then passes the business over to his son or his grandson after the war. Yeah. You can really engender a feeling of sort of attachment to the things that you're doing in the game if you feel like you're being part of that story.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well, coming at it from a you know, as a teacher or a rulebook writer, it means you can say, right, well, here's enough rules, go and play this game. And then you play scenario 2. Right, now in scenario 3, we're going to introduce this. And as you say, it's not legacy. You're not opening anything up. You can sell the game on or whatever. And as long as it's done in such a way, after you've played through all of the scenarios, you can say, I tell you what, we really liked scenario 5, didn't we? Let's just go back and play that one. And the scenario book will tell you, right, for scenario 5, you need these components, you need this, and you're using these rules. And you're like, right, yeah, I know where we are. So yeah, I think I've liked the legacy games that I've done. What have I played? Okay, I've played Pandemic Legacy Season 1. It was okay. But I'm getting a lot more enjoyment out of the story-based games with an evolving game where you're not actually destroying anything. So yeah, if that can be done, and I think in Maracaibo it was done brilliantly. So, going back to attention all shipping, what is happening with that?
Well, I'm basically trying to get it handed over to the development team at the moment. I would like somebody else to take a look at it now. I've been immersed in it since March of last year, and I'm really, really pleased with everything. But I'm beginning to start spiraling off into expansions and all sorts of wacko ideas. And I need somebody just to kind of spend some time with it and take an independent look. Right. And just make sense of it. So, yeah, I was sorting it out yesterday, actually. I was taking out all my expansion ideas for different areas of sea and just going back to the basics again and just making sure I've got my 4 eras. I've got my, my 1930s game, 40s and 50s and 60s game, and get it all ready. I definitely need to do the rule book because the guys at Hemel Hempstead Games Club, now that I've started working back in London again, I was there. Dave Halliday and Phil played it, and it was an absolute dog's dinner going through my rules. My rules are terrible. So I'm looking at you, Grogan. I'm going to need your help on this. Okay, I might be able to help with that. You're my only hope.
So when you say it's being passed to the development team, who is the development team for that one?
Well, I'm giving first refusal to my pals at Studio H, who did Alubari. Yeah. And I showed them at Essen how it was going, but they're a new company. They're kicking off. Alubari's only just started turning up well around the world. It's sort of a couple of months later than everyone had kind of planned for or wanted. So they're kind of meshed up with that. Just as soon as we can get around this weird scenario we've got in the world, I think, I'll try and push it. I mean, I'm in no massive hurry. No. So,
but that's not going to be a Surprise Dare game. It's going to be published through another publisher.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We might decide to do the English version of the game. But to be honest with you, if Alan and David can keep chucking out pocket campaign stuff, I'd be quite happy to keep doing those because they're fantastic.
Right, going back to the chats. 77 plays on Itama, says Scott. So yeah, it's a nice quick game. Kabuki Kid said his most played game is Magic the Gathering. Several thousand games. Yeah. Right, question in from Matt. Would I say that Kaylus will be looked back on as a classic? I already think it is. I think for me, Kaylus is a classic, and although there's a second edition or a new version that's come out now, personally I think Kaylus is a classic for a few reasons. One of those being, it was one of the games that put worker placement on the map. So
I think it's a fantastic game. I love Kaylus. I quite happily play it a lot more than we do. We play it maybe twice a year at the Ross Club.
Right.
We play a lot of older games at least twice a year at the Ross Club, which is fantastic.
Have you played the new version?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm not sure I want to, really. I kind of feel my place with Kaylus is at the game that it is.
Right.
And I don't really want to see the game that it's become.
Yeah.
You know, I love it for what it gave me then and still gives me now.
I think if you're still playing the original game and you're still loving the original game, I wouldn't try the new version because I don't think you're going to like it as much. Whereas me, Kaylus used to be my #1 game of all time, but I just hadn't played it for years, and I think the new version is more accessible. 75% of what's in they've changed I like. A couple of bits I don't like, but overall, yeah, if given the choice now, I'd play the new version. Right. Oh yes, competition. Adam has just reminded me that I do a competition. Every live Q&A, I do a competition, and I've completely forgot about it. So thank you very much for that. So basically what you need to do is you need to send me an email. Send me an email right now, paul.grogan@outlook.com. And what's going to be the secret word, Tony? Can't be rude. Gazpacho. There you go. So send me an email right now.
It's gazpacho. There's no I-O at the end. It's O. It's
I've made it Italian.
I bet you say espresso as well, don't you?
I do. I also have my my gazpacho soup served warm. So
Devonian. It's so weird.
Gazpacho. There you go. So send me an email now, paul.grogan@outlook.com. Put the word gazpacho. If you are a Patreon supporter, put that as well. I will do a draw later on tonight, and one of you is going to win £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. If you are not in the UK, then you can still enter the contest, and basically you can still spend the vouchers. And the plan is that I will buy something from Games Law. You can buy something from Games Law. They'll send it to me, and I'll bring it over to America if I'm ever allowed back in America again. We will see. So yes, gazpacho.
You better call it America rather than America, which is
America. Yes. Jesus. It's been a long week. I'm very tired and I'm hungry. That's everything. How do you spell that? It doesn't matter how you spell it. Just put gazpacho, however you want to spell it.
Look it up. Look it up on the internet.
Google it. Right, Paul Bryant has spelt it for us, and he said Gazpacho. There you go. Where did it originate from, gazpacho?
It's soup, isn't it? Isn't it a cold soup?
It's a soup that's served cold. Yeah, I know that because of Red Dwarf series.
Like revenge. Yeah.
Yes,
so
like
when
revenge.
people talk about revenge, they're talking about gazpacho.
That's what it is.
I tell you what, that makes some of those James Bond movies a bit shit, doesn't it? Oh, Mr. Bond, what's that you have in your pocket? It's a thermos flask, I see.
Yes, what's in it? It's soup. So anyway, we're done. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for all of the questions in the chat. And yeah, I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. GMT, with a live playthrough of Marvel Champions with Rado. So me and Richard Ham are going to be taking on the Green Goblin. That's tomorrow. I might be doing some Gloomhaven digital in the afternoon if you're interested in that, but they're the 2 live streams that I'm doing tomorrow. I need to go because the cats are going to kill themselves if I'm not careful. There's strange noises coming from the other room. Anyway, thank you very much, Tony. Good to talk to you again.
Bye, everyone.
I will talk to you online, and I will see everybody else in the next stream. Cheers all. There we go.